Well, welcome everyone. On behalf of Amy, Jaren, and I, thanks for joining this webinar tonight. This is the second of our series called Inside Earth Expeditions, where tonight we're going to cover the Mongolia, Kenya, and Amazon courses. We would love it if you would take a minute to just say hello in the chat, please. Tell us where you're calling in from, your location, the courses that you're interested in. If you get a chance and you're a current student in the program, tell us what program you're in, the AIP or the GFP. Maybe you're just looking to take this as a standalone course, a one-time Earth Expeditions class. And if you're willing, you could turn on your camera for just a second and wave hello. I see one person on the phone, but if you have a quick chance to do that, if you're not in that kind of setting, we understand. Great. A couple more people I'm admitting into the waiting room. Awesome. So if you all can take a second to do that in the chat, that would be great. Glad to have you here. Excellent. First year in the program. That's wonderful. Welcome, Lindsay. Thanks for calling in from New York. That's great. Couple AIP folks here. That's excellent. Jaren Orwig is from our Cincinnati AIP program, so she'll be able to answer some of those questions. And Dr. Amy Sullivan is from our main branch of Dragonfly at the Oxford campus, so she'll be covering one of our courses tonight as well. And I'm Dr. Jill Korach. I'm our Assistant Director of Field Programs, so I'll be taking us through the first part of our presentation tonight. So thanks. Feel free to keep on introducing yourselves as we move forward in the presentation and type those questions in any time, and then we'll have a chance for some voice at the end of each of the sections of the presentation as well. So, when you join the Dragonfly community, I think it's really neat to start with and think about that you're really becoming part of a shared vision. We have this idea at Dragonfly, and I think it's a really good one, which is a world where all people live sustainably and thrive together with nature. And how we do that, at least through the Earth Expedition side of what we do for Dragonfly, is we're really working to build an alliance of leaders. We're thinking about the positive social and ecological change that you all can create in your local communities and throughout the world by being part of this program. So it's a nice chance to start this call remembering that when you join these classes, you're part of something bigger. We have unique courses that we offer globally. And just to cover quickly, first year courses for our global field program are Baja, Belize, Brazil, Costa Rica, and Paraguay. These are options when you're admitted into the GFP as a new student. And for everyone else, if you're taking a one-time course or you're part of the AIP, you can choose from any of the courses that are listed on this slide. So we have opportunities in the Americas, Africa, Asia, and Australia. And we also offer a winter term class in the Bahamas, for which we are registering folks right now. So if that's a class that you're interested in, you can definitely email me afterward and let me know. But as a general system that we follow for all the courses, we have an online section of the class that's happening from April through August. And then we have an 8 to 10 day in-person experience that's happening in one of these course countries. The idea is that the tuition, the 5 graduate credits that you're paying for, is covered in the course costs, as well as all the basic field expenses that are covered. Some of the classes have different pricing structures, and you can just check our website for details on those. We also recently started offering continuing education credits, CEUs, and those are, continuing education units, and those are useful sometimes for teachers and others that are in fields where that's a beneficial piece for you to have. So you can decide if tuition is a better fit for you. And all of the travel is at your own expense. So that would be any of your airline, hotels, taxis, other things that you need in order to get to that location. So, just starting with some of these past student tips, I think these are really neat coming straight from students who participated in the past, really coming in with an open-hearted attitude. Here we are in a new place that is different and interesting, and probably having some cultural humility through those moments to really just give ourselves a chance to learn something new in a new place. We want to focus on kind of simple living. We've had a lot of good feedback afterward to bring less stuff. You'll be happier making fewer decisions when you're trying to go through your bag and figure out what to wear. And you'll have less things to cart around when you're kind of traveling as far as we do in these courses. Really taking an opportunity to read the course readings and learn the concepts prior to going just makes your experiences with our local experts so much stronger when you already understand some of those basic conceptual ideas that are covered in our readings. There's been some good tips on getting to know your classmates and your instructors online. These are obviously relationships that'll be built more strongly when you're in the field together, but it's really nice to spend some time in that online setting together in our Canvas course beforehand. The idea of really thinking about what your vision of your master plan or any of your personal intentions for the class, think about setting the stage for what you're there to learn. And this kind of goes with the next one, which is really focusing on everything you can learn, not just that one species that you're really hoping to see. And the more open you are to thinking about what you can take in a place. Many of us have gone on these experiences now for many years from our instructional team, and we're always learning something new because we're coming in with kind of that open-hearted attitude. And lastly, being open and flexible to being slightly uncomfortable. See this very happy human here in the middle of the slide who is in a monsoon in India. This is an incredible kind of weather system to be a part of that few of us get a chance to here if you're coming from the United States. So it's just a really awesome opportunity to think about trying new things, trying new foods, and being in this culturally different location. So we're excited that you're thinking about participating in an Earth Expeditions course. So I'm going to turn it over next to Dr. Amy Sullivan, who's going to tell us specifically about our Mongolia class.
Thank you, Jill. Yeah, I am part of the core Dragonfly team. I'm Dr. Amy Sullivan, and I am going to talk to you, like Jill said, about Mongolia, which is a place that I have been for the past couple of years. It's a place near and dear to my heart, and one of the things that I think, people think about Mongolia and they think it's kind of mysterious and don't really know what to expect. And I chose this particular first landscape picture because nothing prepares you for just how big and wide open and rolling and beautiful the landscape is. Go ahead to the next. Another thing people don't really think about is what are we going to see while we're there, wildlife wise. It's a lot of, if you happen to like birds and birding, tons of really interesting birds of prey, raptors, lots of varied wildlife, but also a lot of really cool like herds of domesticated animals that are interacting with humans and the landscape, and so it's interesting to be part of. And so I've highlighted some of the species that we've some foxes and some toads, and Siberian marmots are a huge part of the ecosystem. They're one of the most important parts of engineering that ecosystem. And then, of course, one of our focal species, which is the Przewalski's horse up there that we get to spend some time with. It's a species that was extinct for about 6 decades in the wild and then was brought back to Mongolia, and we get to spend some time observing them and doing some behavioral studies. So it's really exciting. It's a really cool landscape, really exciting place to be part of. Go ahead. Okay, what do we do while we were there? Well, yes, we go and we look for wildlife. We also spend some time, the bottom middle slide is some time that we spend with an expert local botanist, learning about the plants of the area and how we can understand the landscape better through the plants and how the local people use the plants. He tells us all about how their hair grows better because of the various plants that they might use, all those fun things that make it more real what he's talking about. We do a fair amount of hiking, and then we spend time together learning from people who do conservation on the ground, and having discussions and things, mostly within the gers. So gers are like, we call them yurts, but those round white structures, and we're sitting inside one on the bottom left, having a discussion in the evening. We also have an opportunity to go visit with people who are local, like local nomads. So we get to go and learn from them about what they do. On the bottom right was one of the groups that went on one of these Gare visits, got to learn from some people who herded goats and learn about how they interact with the landscape and how they manage their herds for optimal health and cashmere production and all of those kinds of things. And then as part of our civic media portion of the course, in the top middle, we do a workshop, civic media workshop with some local Mongolian teenagers and co-create some media, some civic media on a species of interest to the teen. So we're there in a supporting role, and it's a lot of fun. Next. So climate, Mongolia is semi-arid, but that said, so it's a dry landscape overall. I've been there twice. One year we had rain and snow, so it was cold and wet. This past year it was dry and hot on a couple of days, but usually cool in the evening. And also we had a couple of days where it was really windy and that wind was cold. So the takeaway is you'll need to pack for really anything. The sleeping arrangements are, we for the first half of the course stay in gares out in literally the middle of nowhere, and that's what those the white structures are in the landscape there at the top. And then next to that is a picture of some of our students in the gares. They provide cots, the partners do, and then you bring a sleeping bag. It's actually very, very comfortable. In our second half of the trip, we stay in some cabins that are in the national park where the Przewalski's horses are. It's a traditional bed that is provided. And in between these two, we have a night in a tourist camp where it is like, you know, hot running water, showers, flush toilets. So it is very, very luxurious because in the first camp, we don't have running water. We have outhouses and a hand washing station and plenty of water to drink. And in the second camp, we still have outhouses, though we do have sinks and showers. So it's a little bit of roughing it, but I mean, that's part of the adventure. And you get to stay as the local nomads do in these gares. Activity level, it's moderate. There's a fair amount of hiking, but you can kind of choose your own adventure on the strenuousness. And food is some combination of meat with vegetables, noodles, or rice. I have some pictures there. People are kind of down on the Mongolia EE sometimes about the food, but it's actually really quite good. They make for us some pot stickers and some other kind of fancy Mongolian specialties. And then breakfast is on the left there. There's like cheese and tomatoes and bread and all sorts of really lovely things. So that's how it is for food. Transportation, we drive out to the sites that we stay at. And so we load it into vans and leave Ulaanbaatar, and after a few hours make it at our first Gare camp. And the hours when we switch camps, we second camp that's illustrated there in the middle. We spend a fair amount of time with our partners. So our partners are living in the gares adjacent to us. We're all camped together and they move with us to the next camp. So we get to really know them. So it's a really lovely, lovely landscape, lovely people, really incredibly friendly and open culture. So yeah, love it. Oh, how long are you in each camp? That's a few days. So I would say 4 days. I think it's 4 days in each camp. And the one night in the tourist camp. That's all I got.
Excellent, Amy. Thank you so much. It's so great to see the landscape, and I think this really is a unique course for us where you get to stay, the people you're interacting with culturally, as well as kind of the ecological activities that you're participating in. Are there any other questions that you'd like to ask about the Mongolia course? You can post them in the chat or feel free to come off mute and ask by voice. And some of this information is on our website as well, so it's really good to look back there. Some of these sites are described in a little bit more detail in terms of just kind of written descriptions, and these photos are excellent to be able to look through here, and there are some photo galleries on our web pages as well. So here's one more question. Are Palace cats still part of the curriculum?
So we look for Pallas cats each time, but Pallas cats are usually not seen, so we don't focus on them. That said, occasionally they are seen. What we do instead is we go out for wildlife viewing is what we call it. And on those, we see the red deer. We've seen red fox and Corsac fox. We've seen a variety of raptors, all sorts of really interesting rodents, pika. Um, so it's a really interesting landscape because there's so much going on that you don't necessarily see until you stop and really look for it. And it's just, I don't know. It's really hard to describe the place. It's really hard to describe just how amazing it is. You kind of have to go. And then you'll be in that group that's like, oh yeah, Mongolia is just amazing. So,
That's excellent.
civic,
There's a
I,
couple more
yeah.
questions there about the civic media and conservation storytelling aspect. And then could you talk a little bit more about how strenuous it really is?
Okay. So, the civic media portion is what it the we spend some time um, thinking about what is it to create a civic media message. So something that goes beyond just conveying information, but then has something that is added to it, which is an action component, right? We're trying to get people engaged. We're trying to get them involved in some way. And so we think about media through that lens, our own media that we come in contact with. But then with the Mongolian students, we basically put into practice what we've learned and help them create um, a civic media piece on a subject of interest to them. And what it is it's in conjunction with Mongolian Public Radio, and it's kind of the first step in developing something for a radio spot. That, if the director of the Mongolian Public Radio um, likes the idea, then they help the student further develop the idea into a spot. So we're kind of the first step on that one. Um, let's see. So I think, did that answer the question? That's kind of where we go with the civic media. Um, Conservation storytelling is part of that civic media. We don't specifically focus on conservation storytelling, but it's that what are we going to do piece is what makes it more civic media than just conveying information. And then the choose your own journey. Yeah, so for one of the hikes, there's an option to have a ride back if you can't, if it's something that you feel is too far to do the hike that we're doing. For some of them, it's, the option is, because we're going to collect data, either you can go up the really hard hike up this really steep hill, or there's a option to collect data in the valley. And so it's not a strenuous hike. So we do a lot of walking. The outhouses for one of the sites is up a hill. So there's a little bit of like, you got to walk to the bathroom. And for data collection and activities, we do a little bit of walking. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Amy. That's wonderful. And if other questions come up, please feel free to put them into the chat. I'm going to move us next to Jaren Orwig, who's going to talk to us about the Kenya course, which is titled Wildlife and People in Integrated Landscapes. Thanks, Jaren.
No problem, Jill. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in tonight. I know Amy said Mongolia is the best place in the world, but I kind of think Kenya is. We're all biased. So Kenya, this course overall is about what does coexistence look like when you are someone that live next to big predators like lions or hyenas, elephants. You also live in a country that still has some very traditional community groups, and you're a country that really relies on tourism, and tourism to major national parks is a massive part of your economy. What does that look like all in one country? And so in the Kenya course, I think we do a really nice job exposing you to those different elements of Kenya and getting to see all of those different narratives and what that means for wildlife, what that means for conservation, and most importantly, what does that mean for the people that call Kenya home? So we all meet together in Nairobi to kind of collect everyone together and spend the first day in Nairobi, getting to know one another, doing our first discussion group, and occasionally having a guest speaker. And then the next day, which if you want to, and you can see it in this picture, we all get in a big bus and we drive about 7-8 hours down to Amboseli National Park. Amboseli National Park is one of the major parks in Kenya that's pretty popular with tourists. You get these beautiful views of Mount Kilimanjaro sometimes when she shows, but really a good chunk of the wildlife that people are hoping to see when they go on a safari, we get the chance to see oftentimes in Amboseli National Park. And we spend time in the park. We also spend time right outside of the park. That's actually where we stay in a campground with community game scout rangers, and learn about what is it like, how do they manage living right next to a massive national park where tons of wildlife are coming in and out, spending time with them, going on a game scout walk with them, going on patrol to see what it's like to be a ranger, and having those experiences together within Amboseli. We're in the Amboseli ecosystem for about 2 days, and then we take a little plane. So we do take an in-country flight in tiny planes. We split up the class into 2, and then we fly to our next/final location. Next slide, which is out in the middle of nowhere in about due west of Amboseli National Park, to really spend the next 5-ish days with our partners, Soralo, the South Rift Association of Landowners. And what they do is they are a Maasai-led, Maasai-run community conservation organization that help all of the different communities essentially between Amboseli National Park and the Masai Mara, that 15,000 square kilometer landscape in between those 2 major national parks are filled with people, everyday humans, and how do they live and manage and coexist with the wildlife that are in their landscapes. And so Soralo, the organization, our partner organization, dive in and help these communities figure out what that looks like. So we spend time learning, spend a lot of time with the Soralo staff. What does all of the different programs that they do, from scientific research to community outreach and community health and public awareness, and then getting to know what it's like, especially with the Maasai culture. What is Maasai culture? What do they value? What do they think about wildlife? What is it like to be a Maasai woman and Maasai culture? And just really digging into that piece of how specifically of all the different indigenous tribes in Kenya, specifically the Maasai, how do their values inform how they take care of their landscape, and how do they coincide and coexist with the wildlife that's there. So we do there are some game drives, but we spend a lot of time really just digging into the research, the different community programs that they are involved in, and we get up and we're getting up at 4 a.m. as with the carnivore team one day. We're getting up the next day learning about their baboon behavior education program. We're getting up and seeing how they survey the land in terms of grass and vegetation cover, because that's obviously important both for the cattle as well as wildlife, and just digging into how they take care of that landscape. And then we spend 5 days there in that landscape, and then we head back up to Nairobi and get you all off back on planes. So in terms of climate, it depends on where we're at and where the climate. So Nairobi, the capital city where everyone flies into, is actually the coldest spot of the entire course because you're up at several thousand feet of elevation. So usually that is a place where I'm wearing sweatshirts, and occasionally I've worn a leg jacket, and it can get cold at night. But then as we move south to Amboseli, it still can be sometimes colder, like 50s at night, because you're still at slightly elevation with Mount Kilimanjaro nearby. But it's comfortable. It's not too hot, not too cold. And then when we move to our final location with Soralo, we are at the very bottom of a rift valley. So that means it's hot. It's dry heat, but it's hot. Sun can be intense during the middle of the day. We spend a lot of time trying to find shade as we're doing our different activities. So you also get kind of the little bit of everything, but it's doable. It's manageable. We just make sure we fill you with water as much as possible. And it's different. It's not a tropical heat. Like if you're familiar with Belize or Amazon, it's not that really humid heat. It's a dry heat, but it still gets you sweating, I promise. Activity level, I would say it's pretty moderate, maybe a little less intense than some of the other courses in terms of long hikes and long walks and going up and down hills, because a lot of our time, because of the nature of where we're at and the animals that are there, we're often in vehicles doing our different work, or we'll take a vehicle to a different site and spend time in an area and then get back in a vehicle. When we're in Amboseli National Park, you have to stay in your vehicle. It's part of the rules. I mentioned we do a game scout walk. We do a patrol with rangers one morning, but it's pretty level, but it is walking for about 2 hours but you're like stopping and looking at tracks. And sometimes we saw a hyena on foot. I saw an elephant on foot during this space. So I promise you, it'll be worth it. But it's not intense hiking. It's not intense going uphill for minutes and miles on end. For a lot of what we do, if you can handle the rustic camping, which I'll talk about next, as well as just heat and knowing how to take care of yourself in a dry heat, that's usually where any sort of strenuous thing may come into play for you. So speaking of rustic, we are in tents the entire time. Even when we are in Nairobi and we're all meeting together, it's a beautiful Ecolodge tent, but you are in basically a nice glamp tent on a platform in Nairobi. But then once we hit Amboseli National Park and our time with Soralo, we are in these tents that you see here, and we do 2-person tents, so you buddy up with someone. And you're in a tent. They do provide like a little sleeping pad, and they provide the linen, so you don't have to bring a sleeping bag. It's all provided for you, but you're in a tent and you get out and then you go pee in these little sand toilets that are basically a hole that's dug. They put a plastic toilet over it, and that's where we go to the bathroom. They have a bucket shower, they'll fill water with a little bag ahead, and you just use your water sparingly. Cold showers. It's actually quite refreshing. So it's very basic in terms of where you're sleeping and where you're going to the bathroom and showering. But after a day or two, you get used to it, and it's like, great, this is all I need. I don't need anything too fancy. And then when you get back to Nairobi and you're in your platform tent and you have a toilet that flushes again, you're just like overjoyed. So it's all the way around. Food, I think we get fed really well, and we hear from students that they're fed really well. It's typically think rice, noodles, potatoes of many forms, chicken, beef stews, a little bit of everything. And we've had plenty of vegetarians do completely fine on our courses. I would say if you have a very strict food restriction or allergy beyond that, dairy, dairy-free, gluten, etc., that can be a little bit more to work around. So just tell Dragonfly, make sure you're keeping us up to date about that, since options are just more limited. But in terms of vegetarian and just food in general, I think students most of the time think we eat very well. And then transportation, just you'll see that big bus at the bottom. That's the big bus that we take from Nairobi down to Amboseli, and that's what we use to explore Amboseli National Park. So it's kind of nice because we're all in one spot, so everyone sees the same thing. And we get that time together early on in the trip to get to know one another. We take that charter flight, 2 tiny planes fly from Amboseli to our partner, because otherwise it would add precious time to our course together. And then we use Land Rovers. So what you think of probably with a traditional Land Rover, we split up into about 3 vehicles to do our different activities when we're at Soralo, and those Land Rovers take us back to Nairobi at the end of the course. So a little bit of all over the place, but yeah, that is Kenya in a nutshell. I could talk about it forever.
Sharon, that's excellent. Thank
Yeah.
you. There was a question in the chat of asking about the elevation and how you feel. Do people get headaches? Guessing that water helps, but could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, elevation at the highest that we ever get is Nairobi, and that's like 5,000 something, close to 6,000. So that has never come into play in terms of a conversation about it's making someone feel gross. If anything, it just helps the temperatures be a little more reasonable, or it makes us feel more comfortable. So that has never come into play in terms of like elevation sickness or anything with any students thus far. We've had good luck on that front.
Excellent. That's good to hear. And one more question about luggage. Because of the charter flight, is it better to have soft luggage only, or any tips on how to pack?
Great question. And yes, we've got contingencies, but we first and foremost, and I think most of the time, Dragonfly, no matter which course you're going on, we always recommend soft-sided luggage. This, as Jill said early on, the simpler the better. And soft-sided luggage, I use a duffel, a rolling duffel. So it still has little wheels that helps me in the airport, but it's a soft-sided piece that can be molded underneath buses and whatnot. For this specifically, there is a weight limit. So we actually tell you before we leave Nairobi, we tell you to split up your luggage. So you only bring with you to Amboseli 2 days worth of stuff that you need. And so ideally you have a backpack, something, a carry-on that you brought with you, a day pack, whatever, that you can fit about 2 days worth of stuff in. That's just like your backpack and maybe a little small personal item. And when I'm saying backpack, I mean like an actual school backpack, not like a massive backpackers one, because the goal is to keep weight as low as possible for those charter flights. And again, we're only going to be gone for about 2 days. So we pack up our 2-day, overnighter bag, and then we actually send any bigger pieces of luggage ahead of us, and they meet us, our other big bags meet us in Soralo, because a different team drives them there. So we will actually divide and conquer your luggage and help with that weight limit, but that is definitely something that we talk about as a class.
Excellent. Oh,
if you
Jaren,
did have a bigger piece
great.
of luggage, we're just going to tell you, put that on the bus. You'll see it in 2-3 days, and then it'll be there in our second location.
That's wonderful to kind of know that level of detail as well. Sometimes people on this class and the Mongolia course might end up traveling afterward, is something that kind of happens sometimes too. So like many of us, similar to Jaren, I have a soft-sided rolling bag now. So the times I can roll it, I can. But I know that I can still scrunch it into different little spaces. We definitely don't want you to have to feel like you have to buy something new, but certainly trying to keep on the smaller side and the softer side is always going to be a really good option. So Jaren, thanks so much. That was great to hear about the course. I'm going to end our call here on our Amazon course, talking through the avian and tropical ecology kind of themes of that class. And we'll still have some time at the end for any questions that come to mind. So feel free to keep posting those if need be. Oh, it does look like, Jaren, there's one more question. So just real quick, we land in Nairobi.
Yeah,
We
so we
stay
land
one
in
night.
Nairobi to
Mhm.
meet. Then we drive down and spend 2 days-ish in Amboseli National Park, that part of Kenya. And then we take a flight over to the Sarala landscape. It's called Olkiramatian, for about 5-ish days. So we're essentially in 3 locations: Nairobi, Amboseli, and then out in Olkiramatian. And we kind of make a triangle in the country of Kenya.
That's great. Thank you. And similar for the Mongolia course, and really many of our courses, we're usually visiting 2 or 3 locations during that time. And 2 locations is the case for the Amazon course here. This really beautiful view and sky is of the Puerto Maldonado area where we're off the Madre de Dios River. And it's a really beautiful, wide river. And this class of probably all of our courses is one of the most sustainable in the sense that we really are mostly on foot and on boats. And you see this boat here in the bottom left-hand corner, which we use for transit basically back and forth across the river when we need to. But in most cases, we're going across and then we're staying on site with our partners at Sakat. So I'm going to take you through this class here. This is an incredible course for biodiversity, wildlife, insects, mushrooms, plants. You can see there's a leafcutter ant on this slide. There is an incredible amount of bird diversity, and that really just keeps you going day and night. It's fun to wake up early in the morning and be able to see what birds you can see. You're actually on site during the course with Dr. Ursula Valdez, who is an incredible, started out with harpy eagles as her main research area, but now does a lot with the avian populations of this area. There's a lot of mist netting that's been happening for many years to really understand the bird diversity, populations, changes over time, climate change. So getting that chance to really be on site with the researchers and doing that work is really an incredibly special part of this class in particular. You can see the tree off to the right-hand side, right? This is where biodiversity is happening when you're in the Amazon. So it's a wonderful opportunity to be amidst many of these different species, river otters, capybara. I mean, you just kind of don't know necessarily what you're going to see. Like Jaren said, you're kind of going out for the day and you're seeing what's there. And because this class really does take a sustainability lens, we actually are walking out into the field when we're going out to do our work each day. So I'll show here on the next slide, starting to get a feel a little bit for some of the activities that happen in this location. We're actually having chances to do bird banding, observing bird banding, and some survey techniques. So you'll leave with some skills around understanding how to quickly assess birds for health and other things that are part of that bird banding process. In the bottom left-hand corner here is a group of local youth who come out for some outdoor education programs that have been happening over years. In the center of the slide there was a station that Earth Expedition students set up for the youth as they were coming on site. So here they made a station looking at the colors and the textures of the forest, and they had leaves out for the kids to be able to come by and make some observations on. Again, they're doing another leaf-based activity here in the slide. But each year, students are able to be part of thinking about what those activities can be for that day together with the local youth. It's really special. The year that I was there, they were thinking about this whole idea for the first time. So we were sampling a lot of these stations. We were creating some of the signage on site that was needed and is still hanging today. So like many of our Earth Expeditions partners here at Sakat, they're really thinking about how a group of graduate students can just become a part of the programs that they're already offering. So we get a chance to contribute in a number of different ways. The students in the upper right-hand corner here are doing some bird observations of birds at a lek. So actually the last slide, I'm going to go back real quickly here if it doesn't make us too seasick. In the bottom, almost bottom left-hand corner there where you see all of those macaws, there's these really incredible places where the soil is the right consistency and nutrient level for the birds to be able to really kind of congregate. So these students that are in here on the right-hand side in the upper corner, they are looking across at a really big population of macaws. So being there with a bird expert, you don't have to be a bird lover, even necessarily for this class. I can say that I am not a bird nerd myself, but I really fell in love with the species, the role they have in the ecosystem by being on site with Ursula and the rest of her team. So Ruth is one of those people there in the bottom right-hand corner. She's presenting on some of the work that's happening on grounds with some of the different insect populations. And in the bottom right-hand corner there is cacao. So that's a chocolate pod. And we learn a lot about the sustainability practices for agroforestry. So actually those plants and trees that we're walking around and under to get out to the field sites are in fact a really amazing example of our agroforestry system that's happening. So these are plants that are native to the area that are also being harvested for different fruits that are being then sold. So cacao farming is part of that. We'll see some coffee. There are mini bananas that are dried and sold in the area as well. So Hacienda Herrera that you see here on the slide with the bird logo, they are our local hosts. So they run this really beautiful eco lodge where there are about two or three people per room with all kind of nestled within the site. And again, we're really walking each day. So it's not a tremendous amount of walking and it's not a really big distance, but we are doing it consistently. So sort of every day we'll be definitely getting some steps in on this course. So the climate is hot and humid because we are in the tropical zone of our world, but there are some cold fronts that actually come in. The last time I was there, we had to actually wear a winter beanie cap and our fleece. So a lot of times people bring those things to be warm on the plane anyway, but we ended up needing to utilize them, particularly in the mornings on this course. So just one of those very thin things that you can pack into your bag, even as Jaren and Amy both mentioned, it might be a really useful piece even for our Mongolia and Kenya courses. But having some of those warm layers is really helpful. As I mentioned, we do a good amount of hiking in the sense that we walk. We can wear rubber boots, which they actually have on site already at the station, or if you have a really nice lightweight packable pair, you could bring those along. But we do have some nice long days where we start nice and early because the bird activity is best in the morning when those temperatures are cooler. The right in the bottom center part of the slide there is an example of one of the rooms where we stay. There's 3 beds in the room, and you can see that white hanging piece up over the bed is a mosquito net. So it's kind of fun. Feels like you sort of tuck yourself in at night. You get into the bed, you untie the mosquito net, and you tuck it around your mattress. And it kind of gives you, there's also screens on the rooms, so it kind of gives you a chance to have sort of double duty on trying to keep those mosquitoes out. So clearly they're in the area, but we try to cover up as much as possible. This is a class with sustainability in mind where we ask that you try not to wear DEET-based products, but using natural products for being able to kind of fight against the mosquitoes in whatever way you'd like to do that. Most people choose to wear long sleeves, long pants, socks. They can even tuck their pants into their socks, right? Tucking your shirt in so that you can just sort of cover up as much as possible really helps tremendously. But typically 2 to 4 people are sharing rooms, and then there's this really nice shared bath facility that has separate showers, separate toilet stalls, areas to change. And like Jaren said, while it's cold water, it really feels pretty nice when you're having these warm days and doing a lot of efforting. It feels good to take a cold shower after all of that. This is a really great food course. There is an incredible number of vegetarian options, and there's really only meat occasionally on the course, kind of with sustainability in mind. That's really an important piece for our partners there. But they have fresh salad. They have all these really interesting greens that are part of that, avocado, tomato that's listed here. They have some delicious rice dishes, plantains, yucca, which is cassava grown locally, eggs, cheese. There's a lot of tropical fruits that are on this course as well. So it's fun to just kind of get a chance to try new things and make that the food a portion of your journey here as well from the cultural side. And again, we really are walking. You see the students here in the bottom left-hand corner. They're actually transiting to our next location. So if you can believe it, we get a chance to be able to walk to a boat, to take a boat, to walk again, to another boat, to get us to another location where we spend one night at the Tamalpata Lodge that's here on the right-hand portion of this slide. And that gives us a chance to just be on this really large lake and body of water. That's where some of the otters are seen at different times. And we're just really kind of getting a chance to see a different part of the ecosystem while we're there. So that really kind of is the Amazon class in a nutshell. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that one. And it looks like Jennifer had a question saying 2 locations. Is the lodging and bathroom setup similar at both? Yes. Though at the lodge, typically we have rooms where the bathroom would be right there off our room. So maybe 2 to 4 people per room with a bathroom that's part of your room. And then on site at Sacat and Hacienda Herrera, that bath facility is a shared bath facility for everyone. And everybody's kind of staying in rooms that are sort of all in a row. So it might be 2 people here and 4 people here, and then the bath facility. And then there's a central area where we eat that's in a nice, really big screen room. And we also use that for our classroom. Great. So this is a really special chance to get a chance, I think, to be immersed in a place with a local community that is really just thinking about both sustainability, the ecology, as well as, of course, the avian populations that are there too. Great. So I'm going to move to our next slide, which is just some reminders on your applications. So if you're on this call as a current Dragonfly student, you've already been emailed a form, and those course requests for our 2026 courses are due on October 25th. If you're a new student or you're going to be an alumni by the time we'll be traveling next summer, your application is through our web page, the Earth Expeditions web page, which you'll find when you're searching through the web page, and that is due on January the 15th. So 2 pretty different due dates here. Pay attention to those and get them on your calendar so you're sure to get in your applications for the summer. And we have 2 more sessions still to go. On October the 8th, we'll cover our Australia, India, and Galapagos courses. And then on the 15th, we'll actually cover all 5 of our first year options for students. So again, as current students, you can take any of these classes, so feel free to join us. But if you are considering joining the GFP, the classes you have to choose from are the Baja, Belize, Brazil, Costa Rica, and Paraguay courses, and that call is on October the 15th. So we're so glad that you were able to join us for tonight. It's wonderful to think through just all the amazing Earth Expeditions local partners that we have, and thanks for learning more about these 3 courses. I'm going to look through the chat here real quickly and be sure all of our questions were answered. So it looks like a question on for all the courses discussed today, what percentage of people are not accepted to their first choice location? Great question, Kurt. We do our best to try to give everyone one of their top choices, but I would suggest falling in love with probably your first, second, and third choices. We do have a high percentage of people who get their first and second choices, and actually even first choices. But if we have, there's only a certain number of spots in each one of these locations. So really having at least those top 3 fitting into your master plan, or at least your personal interests, would probably keep you the happiest. So that's always my suggestion. Though we're going to ask you for at least 5 in your application, because we try to do our best to look through everybody's information to see if we can get you in your topmost choice possible. I can tell you, having been part of that process for many years, we really spend a lot of time on trying to make that work as best we can. Another question, if you're a master's student, oh yeah, so Jaren's asking, and kind of to that question as well, thinking about your master plan goal really is important for us, because we may be able to look at your choices and really think about, actually, from what this person has mentioned, the India course may be even better fit. And you'll be surprised for people to say, gosh, I ended up getting my third choice, and wow, was that a good fit for me? So being part of this program for many years, we just have a really incredible and extensive collection of local experts in every location. And I know I always come home learning something from those experiences too. So hopefully that helps a little bit in thinking about your application. I'll stay on the call. If there's any other questions, just let us know. Thank you so much for being part of the call this evening. And Rebecca, you did ask a question about Guyana. So our thought is that we'll be offering it in 2027. So you don't see that as part of our offerings for this year, but please keep it in mind for next summer. Thanks everybody for joining. Good night. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Oh, thanks for coming, Tom. Good night.
Thanks for having this opportunity to share this. It's just amazing, Jill. So great.
Oh, great. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. It's such good experiences that we offer. They're so fun to get to talk about that way. That's wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, they're life changing. They really, really are.
Agreed. I feel the same way, and I've been here 21 years, so pretty awesome. Yeah,
Truly.
that's great. Oh, I see one more question. Last question. Who's the best person to talk through how to choose a course? They're all so amazing. Oh man, that is a no bad choices is actually a bit of a problem sometimes. Rebecca, I'd be happy to talk with you if you want to send me an email. I can stick that in the chat for you as well if you want to reach out. No problem at all. That would be great to be able to talk that through with you if that would help you in thinking about it. I will say when you think over particular places, sometimes for people, it's really just about your schedule and when you're available. Other times it's really a draw to a particular place or a particular region because there's something in particular that's speaking to you. But I will say in all the classes, we get a chance to think about community-based conservation. We're thinking about inquiry and how we participate, right? How do we elevate voices in this conservation story? So some of those themes are going to happen in any of our courses, which is kind of why sometimes I think even though the locations are what we're so kind of worried about and drawn to, in fact, there's so much to learn from any of these locations that I tend to try to kind of stay open to that. But I'd be happy to think through with you if you have particular questions you'd like to please reach out and email me. Excellent. Well, thanks everyone. Good night. Thanks, Sharon and Amy. Really appreciate your time for telling us all about these amazing courses.
No problem. Have a good night, everyone.